Oliphant John and Lawrence. Played through for Fuller. Fuller's beaten Larson here. And Ricardo Fuller has scored for Stoke. 10 minutes to go. And it could yet be a celebratory night in the Potteries.
Bonjour à tous et bienvenue de l'épisode 4 du Sorcier de Radio... Excuse me, everyone. I was caught about of Euro fever there. Welcome to episode 4 of the Wizards of Drivel podcast. My name is David Cowdershaw. I'm joined by Chris Brammer.
Bonjour David, comment allez-vous?
Très bien. And I'm also joined by Jason Martin.
Salut.
Salut, chaps. So Euro 2016 have just kicked off, and to cash in on that, we're going to talk about Stoke for a good portion of an hour. Let's delve into all the transfers that have been going on at Britannia Stadium. There haven't been any. Okay, brilliant. But it does appear that we have won the race, to use the Daily Mirror's term, for Norwich City winger Nathan Redmond. Jason, what's your reaction to this?
Well, I'm delighted if it is true, given that we've been talking about it on here for the last few weeks anyway. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as a move. He's been linked for a few years, as is well known that his sort of best friend in football is Jack Butler, so it makes sense for him to move here. I think Southampton will link.
Do you think he and Butland will have a Dele Alli and Eric Dyer style bromance that will just clog up our Twitter timeline?
Yeah, that's probably true. I saw Southampton were rumoured yesterday, but it was sort of from a tentative blog site that seemed to be really pushing like Southampton are interested. It would be a good move for Southampton. There's no official reports, but Southampton, no. It does sound like he's coming to Stoke, which is, considering the guy who reported it is a Norwich fan himself, James Nursey, it sort of gives you some hope. Interestingly, the fee seems to have crept up now to £10 million, which at first you're like, whoa. But if you break it down, like 15% of this is meant to be a sell-on fee to Birmingham, so that sort of explains why Norwich want a little bit more money for him. And then you've got the obvious factors. He's English, which always adds a naught on the end. He's only 23. He's got about 170 competitive league games under his belt, which is brilliant, and is exactly the sort of development that the young players in England need. And of course, it's only June, and the fees for transfers and bids have been absolutely absurd already. So in the context of it, I think 10 million is probably the new 5 million in a sense. So I think it's going to be a good deal for us. And he could play his best football at Stoke for sort of half a decade when he's hitting his prime years. So yeah, in terms of a long-term investment and a domestic transfer, I think he's exactly what we need. If you sort of break down how he's done this season, obviously in a quite awful Norwich side, he creates sort of similar chances to Shaqiri. He sort of created 47 compared to Shaqiri's 50. But interestingly, only 3 of them were through balls compared to Shaqiri's 15. So he seems like a really different player in that sense. It's more of a...
You raise an interesting point there. With Nathan Redmond, he's a right-sided winger, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Which is where Shaqiri plays. So do you see Redmond as a backup for Shaqiri? Do you see them playing in the same starting 11?
It would be interesting. I think a lot of people are thinking that Redmond is going to come here as a backup, but maybe you can see a shift in where Shaqiri plays, and obviously it hinges a lot on Arnautovic staying or going and being replaced as well. But I mean, as we record this, the Albania-Switzerland game is literally just finished, and Shaqiri did really well there, but he was sort of drifting in and around rather than sticking to his right wing role, and maybe that number 10 role might be a better suit for him. It's an interesting challenge. It's one that we may sort of see tried over pre-season and at the start of next season. So I think Redmond will play a part, and he's not just going to be there to sit on the bench. So yeah, it's quite exciting, but it's just nice that we're going to have some genuine options there.
Chris, Shaqiri, Redmond. I've got Shaqiri on the mind. Nathan Redmond, does he excite you? Is he someone who makes you think, yeah, he's going to take us to the next level?
I think he has all the potential to do so. Yeah, if we're going about building a homegrown a team based around homegrown players like all the papers are suggesting, then it makes sense to go with one of the hottest young wingers that England have got. It's a weird one because he isn't the fancy foreign name, you Jordan Shaqiri's and whatnot, but I do think as a player he's got bags and bags of potential, and he's still really, really young. If he comes to us, I think that he'll have a good few years with us, and actually he's one of those players who'll be pushing to break into the main England team. So yeah, I'm excited about the prospect of him coming to us. Yeah.
Well, another young winger who's been linked to us recently is Aston Villa's Jack Grealish. A man not without his baggage, I think it's fair to say. Is he someone we could try and redeem, try and turn his career around? I mean, Tony Pugh was famously christened as Battersea Dogson for reforming the careers of the likes of Jermaine Pennant and Matthew Etherington come to mind. Could Hughes do a similar job with Grealish?
I love that Battersea Dogs Home tag. I think I wrote an article a bit back for 4-2-3-1 about how whilst we have changed our style, I think we're still the rescue centre for lost players. Ian Autovic's, your Bojans, Shaqiri's, those players who've had a few rough years and are looking for a place to settle down and really, really prove themselves. I think the difference with Grealish is obviously, he's a lot younger than those guys when they've joined us. He's clearly a talent. You mentioned baggage. I think a lot of players at that Villa side have baggage, especially after last season. But I think Grealish definitely is redeemable. He's still young enough to be coached down the right direction. I don't know whether he'd be a player who'd come in and make an impact straight away in the first team. I think he would be a player who would... He'd definitely get game time, but I think he would be more in and out the team and would be focused more on developing himself as a player rather than being the main man, which I don't know whether that was the case at Villa, but especially from the outside, it seemed like it was very much, this kid is the next big thing, let's pin all our hopes on him for survival, and whether that's played a part in his in his season and the pressures getting to him, I don't really know. But if he came to us, I don't think there'd be any pressure on him. I think everyone has a pretty low opinion of him at the moment. I'd be excited by it because he's definitely one of those players who can, under the right guidance and playing in a happier team and playing better football, I think he's definitely a player who could flourish.
It's interesting that we opened that up with Grealish being a winger. I'm just having a look at his average position on the pitch by match day this season, and a lot of it's actually quite central. He seems to sort of veer towards slightly left of centre for most of it. So whether it doesn't look like he'd be maybe so much a winger as like a number 10, which brings into the whole question of where he would fit into the side. Would he be a backup to Bojan, which I think would actually be a good idea. I think we've discussed it before that Afellay out until December, January. Ireland's out until presumably the same time. Bojan will be playing that number 10 role.
Unless, of course, Shaqiri moves into the middle.
Yeah, I mean, there could be Shaqiri, there could be Adam more advanced. He could continue with this 4-3-3 with Mbula more advanced. But for the time being, there is definitely a lack of competition there for Bojan or just general cover. So maybe they're looking at it towards that. Hopefully it's not going to be one of those signings where like the versatility is the death of him and he doesn't nail down a position. But just having a look through some of his figures, he seems to be a really good passer of the ball. Like his passing accuracy last season, albeit limited game time, was 85%. That goes up to 87 in the final third. So he seems to be quite tidy on the ball, which is good. And he's not, I know it's quite low values, but he seems to be quite a good tackler as well. He won 85% of his tackles. Looks like he's got a bit of fight in him.
Jason is ruthlessly exploiting his new Squawker app. Which
I wish. No, this is
Oh no.
The Opta-fueled fancy football stats. It's like
wow.
Christmas.
Christmas for nerds. And a man a bit further forward who we've also been linked with is Southampton's Graziano Pelle. I must plug at this point Sam from FourTwoThreeOne Stoke's excellent article about whether we need a striker at all, and it's caused a bit of controversy among some of the Stoke fans who follow us. But Chris, I'll ask you: Graziano Pelle, good signing, and do we need a striker?
just before that, my favourite thing about Sam's blog was that we posted it, and he spent a good few days researching all these different like areas. He's wrote this in-depth, almost academic blog on whether we need a striker, and within 15 seconds of it being posted, someone had just replied saying yes, we need a $15 a season striker. It was just like brilliant. Poor Sam. In answer to your question, I don't know if we do need a striker. So I think Sam had said it in the article. If we went for Pella, this would be the sixth striker that Mark Hughes has got, if you include like Bojan and whatnot. And I don't know if that's correct.
Great player, whatnot.
Yeah, whatnot. Yeah. He's a good player, but I don't know if Sam illustrates this really, really well in the blog. That I don't feel the problem is scoring; it's creating enough chances. Yeah, there's been some cases and some really highly illustrated points where a number of players have missed from open, like 3 foot out, and open nets and all that type of stuff, and that kind of then gets exacerbated, and people will say, "Look, oh yeah, we need a striker who can put these chances away." Sam does a really, really good job in this article. It sounds like I'm just selling this article. Everyone go read this article. It really does make a great point. But we don't penetrate the box too much. We're so happy with holding on to the ball that we don't get those. I can't even think of the words I'm trying to say. We don't create enough chances, and I don't think us going.
Yeah, it's that final ball we're lacking, isn't it?
And I don't think us getting another striker is going to save that. Better getting a world-class player who can make chances out of nothing for themselves. I don't see another striker coming in and changing that situation. What we need is to be a bit more riskier on the ball and maybe forgoing possession for possession's sake, and actually going maybe a little bit more direct and trying to actually create chances. I like Pella as a player. He had a good season the season before last, and getting him from Southampton will stop him scoring against us, if anything. But I don't know if we need him, in all honesty, because he's a very similar player to Hosselu, and what does that say about him if we get another player who's very similar to him?
Yeah, I would agree with Chris. And plus, I think the main thing about the likes of Hosselu and Juve, for example, not getting game time this season there's been so many strikers on the books, and Hughes is sort of rotating them a lot, which means that it's sort of a lot of strikers and a little game time portioned in between them. So obviously Odin Wingy's left this summer. Crouch may well leave, Walters may well leave, Juve may well leave. Half of the squad's up in the air at the moment. But I don't think that we're going to solve this attacking problem by sort of adding to the striker pile. I think if we take one or two out and sort of go, right, we've got fewer strikers that are going to get more game time, I think that's going to be way more beneficial than sort of taking X number out and bringing the same number back in again. Because I think we are strangely overstocked up front.
Saying that though, the rumours on Berahino have gone a little bit quiet, but I do see us possibly moving for him just to... There is all this talk about building a homegrown team, and I feel that we will go for someone like him just to be a star player in this new team. I think that this actual summer is seen by Mark Hughes and the management as a rebuilding one. This is the first summer where they're going to really put a proper stamp on the team and bring new young players in who are going to replace a lot of the old guard. We'll probably end up with a striker. I don't know if we need one, like I said, but who knows? It's mad, isn't it, the transfer window?
Yeah, I'd take Berahino. I know that now that Spurs have moved for this Janssen guy from Holland, that it looks like interest is probably cooled there, which means it's probably just going to be us versus West Ham and Sunderland. It's the same for any player on earth.
West Ham.
For Berahino's signature. Like, I would take Berahino because, I guess, in the context of bringing a new striker in, if we had to, he's something slightly different to what we have. He is a ruthless finisher, and he does have that sort of pace and mobility about him, and something slightly different. Whereas Pella would sort of be a like to like, exact like for like for Hoston. We don't need two of them.
Yeah, I think the thing with Saido Berahino is he's quite similar to Ricardo Fuller in that he can create a chance for you and also finish a chance for you. He can turn a defender on the edge of the box and fire one in, whereas I don't think many of our strikers really do that.
And he's another one of those players who, like Nathan Redmond, will be looking to push into the England setup in the next few years. And in a settled, happier team playing good football, they have all the potential to do that.
Yeah, I agree. On the subject of other players coming in, Jason, I believe you've been looking at players who've been released by other clubs.
Indeed. Just before I start on them, like the final big link, I guess, that we had this week was Charlie Taylor of Leeds United, who apparently, according to Team Talk, had held talks with both Stoke City and Liverpool ahead of a £5 million move. I'll be baffled if he picks us, to be honest, over Liverpool. But we might sell it a bit well. I guess in terms of his position, he's a left back, English, which is always nice. Apparently, not the biggest priority in terms of positions, but I guess it's a sensible move. It'd be good to have some competition for Peters, who looks like he's been running in bandages at times this season. And Taylor's like a fairly solid sort of mainstay in the Leeds defence. He's got 38 appearances this season. Quite good stats. 111 interceptions, 152 clearances. So he sort of gets involved. And apparently, according to Who Scored, he likes to cross the ball, he likes long passing and interceptions and blocks. So he could well be a perfect fit for us, to be honest. And for $5 million, it could, for someone who could, I guess, progress on eventually, maybe to the cusp of the England squad, I think it's probably going to be a bargain.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends in this part of the world who are Leeds fans, and they all, when we've been speaking about him, they've all said that he's a very good player. He clearly does have what it takes to go further, like go up the leagues. But they all feel that if he is to move, he would want to go to a place where he is playing. And to be honest, from the reviews he gets, I imagine that he would come and get game time with us. That's no disrespect to Peters, who I imagine still play, but I think there'd be much more. It wouldn't be as clear cut as he would be a backup to Eric Peters. I think they would be much more. They'd be switching often and rotated in different matches.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what they need, to be honest. I know I was reading a bit up on him as well, and they said that obviously Lewis Cook is touted a lot by sort of being scouted by Premier League clubs. He'd been linked with us as well, sort of £10 million moves. But it's interesting to see the Leeds fans were saying that Taylor's probably more ready for the Premier League than Cook is, which is sort of a massive compliment, I guess. And it's quite exciting that he may come to us. So moving on to what David was saying about the released players list, there's some big names and some terrible names on here. But
Can't wait for this.
Okay, so Carlo Torres left Liverpool.
Get him in.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll rattle through them all, and you can yes and no them, or just no.
Okay.
Okay, Flamini,
Yes.
Rosicki,
Yes.
David Kalis.
Yes.
What are you building? Right, I'll run.
I just want us to make a signing.
Okay, I'll quickly run through the other notable ones. So you've got Steven Pienaar, Sylvain Distin, Emmanuel Adebayor again, Gaston Ramirez,
Yes to all three.
Victor Anichebe, the hero himself, Stefan Sessegnon, Steve Fletcher, Steve Harper, and Wes Brown, who's probably got the best own goal stats in the league. So yeah, there's quite a mix. I think in terms of ones that we could actually pick up, whether Hughes could get one last season out of Stephen Pienaar, I don't know. Sylvan Distant seemed fairly energetic still.
Did you say Stephen Fletcher's been released?
Yeah, that was quite surprising.
From Sunderland.
Yeah. Did he
we
not
sign him just so he never scores past us again?
Yeah, him and Pella. Let's get them both. I'm assuming he didn't do too well in France then at Marseille.
No,
was
he's
a
not been
curse.
tearing it up.
Oh.
He scored a few goals in cup games. I think he's kind of been like their Joselu, to be honest.
Well, I don't know. It might have just been the league then, but he was some curse where he played, they didn't win for like 9 games. So, and then he finally got his goal in a draw, and it was like the curse was lifted.
Marseille have been they were horrible, I think. I think it was Marseille that hadn't won at home since like October.
Yeah, it was.
Crazy run.
Just to wrap off this bit then, we'll look through Stoke's release list as well. So, in terms of the first team squad, Steve Sidwell's now moved on to Brighton as of the 1st of July, which is a logical move.
Yeah.
Peter Odin-Wingy is retired. God bless his soul. Like, it's a shame that the injuries ruined him for the last sort of couple of years.
I really like Peter Odin-Wingy. I think his impact when he first joined us, we were in a real bad spell. I think when we swapped him for Kenwyne Jones, didn't we?
We did.
In January, and he had an impact almost straight away. He scored that towards the end of Hughes' first season, I think it was. He scored some fantastic goals for us. There was that game against West Ham at home where he scored that blinding finish into the top right-hand corner. And it all went wrong the following season with that injury against Man City, which he unfortunately never recovered from. But I think his signing for us, as great as it was for us to have a player who's came in, scored goals, was important for us. It was really redemptive for him as well, because he was a real kind of joke figure at that time, wasn't he? For the whole driving up to QPR thing, and he hadn't done anything at all at Cardiff really. But it's a real shame that he's had to retire.
He could easily have dropped down a league and done something for a championship team.
Yeah, I mean he did well at Bristol City. He bagged a few sort of between January and the end of the season. But I guess if he wants to sort of retire while he's at a sort of semi-good level, then fair play to him. I'd love to see him back in some sort of club ambassador role, to be honest. I know he's only there for a little bit, but he had such a smile and such sort of energy around the place. I think he'd be brilliant, and he would be an asset to the club. So in terms of the first team, that's all there is. And just to rattle through the under-21s, Ben Barber, the left back who joined us from Man United's academy a couple of years ago, has moved on to York City, so good luck to him. Ed Dryden, the centre half, has been released. Bobby Mosley, who I know quite a few rated at left back, has been released and looks like he's going to build his career in the MLS, so best of luck to him. Not a bad place to do it, to live. Ryan O'Reilly and Mason Watkins-Clark have also gone, and Peter Scaperes, who has been unbelievably unlucky since being at Stoke, that he's had cruciates on both knees. And he looked like he was coming back into some serious form as well before his second one. And I guess it looks a bit unfortunate. Like, I don't want it to look bad on the club at all that they've released him while he's still recovering from the injury, but I think there is a point, as with the likes of Mosley and Watkins-Clark, where the club have probably just gone, look, go somewhere where you're going to get regular football at a competitive level and go build yourselves a career. And there is that point where I think you can do that without being harsh. So yeah, good luck to them all.
Yeah, absolutely. On that, we've offered professional contracts to 3 players. Daniel Bachman, the goalkeeper, who I think made a couple of unused substitute appearances towards the end of the last season with our keeper crisis, such as it was. Liam Edwards has also been offered a professional contract, as is the fantastically named Jeanville Isaacs Joseph Rene Pringle.
Excellent.
I cannot wait to have that name on the back of my shirt.
I think Jason should have it on the shirt. Yeah, you should have it on the shirt next to you, Jason.
No, I'm not cursing anyone else.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there for the first half. Join us after the break.
One shot, 1 7, 6,
Welcome back to part 2. Chris and Jason are here, and we are about to dissect the most controversial Twitter poll of all time. That is the Stoke City England 11. Now, the Stoke media team, I think, in all good faith, just to sort of tie in with the Euros, show their support for England, kind of thing. They thought, oh, let's have a Twitter poll. Let's engage with the fans on social media. This will be seamless. So they asked us to vote on a English Stoke City 11 from all time, with votes in each position: goalkeeper, left back, centre mid, right winger, left winger, and striker. Now, I don't know if it was a mixture of hijacking or naivety or just fans being younger, but in our all-time England 11, we have Jack Butland in goal, Andy Wilkinson at right back, Danny Higginbottom at left back, Jermaine Pennant at right wing.
Jesus.
A couple of notable players who missed out, of course, include George Eastham, Neil Franklin, Jackie Marsh, Gordon Banks, and Stanley Matthews.
Not to forget Ryan Shotton.
And Ryan Shotton. Are we on board with the team that got voted the greatest Stoke England 11 of all time?
I think I joke about the Pennant one, but it's quite funny because I believe there were rumours that it was another poll hijacked by the Arsenal fans to vote him in because he's ex-Arsenal, not knowing that they probably just voted him in because he scored that lovely 25-yard screamer at the Britannia against them in that 3-1 win a few years ago. So it sort of worked in our favour. I think it did.
Stanley Matthews also guested for Arsenal in a charity match, so the joke's on them. Really.
I think I don't know what else you're supposed to do, really. I think we had this issue with the Stoke City draft that we put on the website. Like the younger ones amongst us, I say that like we're not all in our 20s. You sort of hear about the tales of the old players from sort of the 60s and 70s, but because when you've never seen them play yourself, it's really hard to sort of gauge and develop any memories from them, to be honest. So it makes sense why the likes of Butland, Wilkinson and stuff and Pennant were picked, because they're all we know, really.
Yeah, I wonder how many of the people on Twitter actually seen Stanley Matthews play at all. Which, I take your point, but I think there's got to be a sort of sense of, look, there's a statue of Stanley Matthews outside the stadium. There's not one of Jermaine Pennant yet. Maybe he was one of our best players ever, probably the best.
But did he track back?
Yeah, Danny Higginbottom doesn't rate him. He doesn't track back enough. He never got booked either, which proves he wasn't up for a challenge. So.
No, I think it's as you say, I think it was a really good and novel idea by the Stoke City media team that probably just sort of didn't quite get the reception that it probably warranted.
Some odd players just there in general. I think the right side of midfield one was Pennant, Matthews, Mark Chamberlain, and Kevin Keane. Now, to be honest, my memories of Kevin Keane aren't great, but was he that good that he is one of our 4 best right-sided midfielders of all time? I think for that one they should have just had one option, just Matthews, and just left themselves open to it.
I did like their. Did you see the Stoke City media team's reply or response to Jermaine Pennant getting voted in?
They sort of overruled.
They did. I think they've assumed that it was all Arsenal fans, and they said something like, "For your information, like Arsenal, we're going to also ignore Arsenal fans." So
Brilliant.
Right. Speaking of Twitter, shall we have some correspondence?
Yes.
Go for it.
Yes, that's what we like to hear. Kyle Norbury, regular contributor, asks, who of all the rumoured players would you least like to see sign for us? Jason.
Right. I love his accompanied comment.
Yes, he adds, I think Grealish will be a waste of space.
written him off before he's even signed. To be honest, I started looking through all the players we were linked with, and then I thought about the last 2 years and realised that I would take anyone, because everyone that I didn't rate seems to have come up quite well. Like I wrote off Glenn Johnson before he arrived, brilliant. I wrote off Affleck in his first few games. He went into full god mode in the second. So I'm not going to rule anyone out because it's going to make me look like an idiot. So I'll take anyone.
See, yeah, that's why I was saying yes to Di Michaelis and Colo Torre before. Just got to get bodies in. We'll worry about where they play later.
Yeah, but that's it's like another Stephen Fletcher Pella thing with Colo. He turns into Beckenbauer whenever we play. Like those cup semi-finals, they brought him out, dusted him off, put him on the pitch, God. And he just destroyed us.
That was ridiculous.
Oh dear me.
FCFC Josh 96 with a slightly offbeat question here. Where will Stoke be in 20 years' time? In the same position? Does he mean ninth again? Are we going to be ninth the next 20 years? Champions League football or back in League One? Chris, you can see into the future.
Ninth place. We'll be in ninth place, obviously.
Ninth place in the European Super League.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, my only method of predicting the future is Football Manager. So if that's anything to go by, we'll be multiple times champions of Europe, and I'll be manager. So fantastic.
Perfect.
Oh, amazing! We've got a future Stoke manager.
It's all right.
On the
Look out for Manas Holvas. He's an English kid with Greek background. He'll come through our academy in the year 2018. Brilliant player. He goes on to be England's top scorer. So there you go.
Yeah, that'll go down the pan when we vote out the EU next month. Destroyed our Champions League hopes, all for a vote.
Well, there you go.
So I think there is a serious point to be made here. Vote in, or Stoke won't win the Champions League. I mean, I don't often bring politics into the podcast, but vote in, otherwise we won't win the Champions League.
No.
I think that's fair. I think that's nice and impartial. At Sybil Leak asks, rumours about Man U basically having a Vale as a B team if Jose's mate goes there. Should Stoke be looking to do something similar? I don't think we should be having Vale as a B team, to be honest. But this raises an interesting point about sort of B teams and under 21 squads. In that they're going to be in the Johnson's Paint Trophy next year, or whatever it's called. What do we think about that?
I don't like it. I think that when they were talking a few years back, well, last year or so, about then the academy teams playing in Leagues 1 and 2, I don't like the idea. It works for the Spanish teams and the German teams, but I don't know. I like the unique nature of our league system, and whilst it's great to get youngsters game experience, I don't like the idea of a B team. I'm sure like the questions like referring to the fact that Jose had just loaned loads and loads of Man U players to Vale, which we had a slightly similar setup with Barnsley a few years ago, granted not to a huge scale. I'm all for working relationships between clubs, but no, not to a B team.
Yeah, I think we've actually tried similar before. AD Pennant, obviously, who used to be on the Stoke backroom staff, was at Forest Green, and we saw a couple of players go there on loan, most notably Dale Eve, I think last season or the season before. So it does make sense to have sort of a side that we could regularly get players into to sort of get league football and integrate. With regards to the under 21s in the Johnson's Paint Trophy, I was sort of considering the idea a few months ago when we were talking about it. I think it's, in terms of getting academy-sized competitive football, it's probably the least disruptive of all the options, like compared to putting them in the league with each other and stuff. But I don't think there's any winning. Like, there's not going to be one that any agree on. And obviously, it's really difficult for us now as a Premier League side to go, oh, this would be a great idea. Whereas if we were supporting the likes of crew and everything else, we'd probably see it as all the big sides are just throwing their kids down here, so disrespectful, this, that, and the other. So I think it's really hard to see it from their perspective.
Like, one of my earliest football memories was seeing us play the Auto Windscreen Shield final at the old Wembley, and how much of a different occasion would that have been had it been, Ipswich Town Reserves rather than Bristol City. It would have slightly cheapened. Well, it would have definitely cheapened it in my opinion. Now, the reason we're all here is not to talk about Stoke. It's not to talk about transfers or the Euros or anything like that. It's because Jason has a Stoke City film 11 that I just can't wait for. No pressure.
I'm so excited for this.
But this is a collation of not just our efforts, but the efforts of everyone who follows us on Twitter.
I would.
So you only have yourselves to blame, really.
I'd like
Jason,
to thank everyone that took part in this. I can't sort of give each name to which because I generally can't remember. There were so many. So we've got enough for 2 first team 11s, which really says something. So our first team in goal, we have Give and Let Die.
Thank you very much.
Going from left to right back, we have Peter's Pan. I don't think many people like the idea of a fairy as a defender, though. We had the extremely popular Shawcross Redemption.
Wait, sorry. Peter's Pan, and he's from the Netherlands.
Oh no.
Sorry, continue.
I can see a graphic been made already somewhere on Photoshop.
Oh my god. Right, so we have Shawcross Redemption at centre back, which I think is quite a well-known one because a few picked up on it. You, me, and Dewberry had me in pieces. At right back, we have Dude, Where's My Cliff Car?
Oh god.
One for the teenagers there.
Okay. Sitting in defensive mid, we have Glengarry, Glenn Whelan.
Oh god.
These are
so stupid.
I'd say again, well done to everyone for these.
This has redeemed my faith in Twitter. This has.
So on each wing, we have Peter Sweeney Todd. And Liam Lawrence of Arabia.
Excellent, yeah.
At the number 10 and creative force, and probably our favourite of all, is Bojango Unchained.
Oh,
very good.
And a lovely teenage front line of American BT and Kenwyn Jones's Diary.
American BT. Oh gosh. Oh.
Presumably.
So yeah.
Oh my god.
That's happened.
So presumably Kenwyn Jones's Diary is just pages and pages of Glenn Whelan written all over it. Bad drawings of pigs' heads.
I'm imagining, like, I'm presuming we've all seen Ace Ventura, where he goes into the missing footballer's room, and everywhere it's Dan Finkel written everywhere. That's Kenwyn Jones's home. Everywhere, Glenn Whelan written in crayon and everything all along the wall. If Glenn Whelan goes missing over pre-season, you know who's responsible.
Yes. Right. And our reserve squad.
We've got reserves. These are the depths. We're plumbing.
Yes. Our reserve keeper, we've got De Hoy's in the hood.
That's my favourite.
John,
we've got an episode title.
John Halls of Fury.
Okay.
My favourite of all of these was the Never-Ending Rory, which is a tale of a long throw that just went on and on. Poor Charlie Adam in there twice. We have the Addams Family and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is
that's a dig.
The James Bond, The Quantum of Ray Wallace.
Oh, God.
Dear me.
And then, in terms of attacking threat, we have Harry Potter and the Mark Chamberlain of Secrets.
Hey.
Yeah, Well,
and then we finish off with the front three of the Thorn Identity,
very
Full of
good.
Metal Jacket, and the Geist.
Nice.
Wait. Oh my god.
Oh,
De Hoys and De Hoys.
That, yeah.
I'm just imagining him as one of NWA now. I can't think of a more out of place
And
man than Ed De Hoy in NWA.
There's another graphic been made on Photoshop somewhere.
so thank you for all that. We're going to try and make these sort of Stoke 11s more of a regular feature. So if you guys have got an idea for,
God help us.
then drop us a tweet and we'll see what we can do.
Shall we raise the tone a bit?
Okay.
Jason, you want to talk about books?
I do want to talk about books. So the summer holidays are coming. Everyone's gone on holiday. Quite a few.
Can we say for next week we'll have a books 11? See if we can just make the jokes a bit more highbrow. They don't have to be good.
Books 11.
You just make them highbrow.
Yeah, Books 11. Let's go for it.
We can definitely try. Okay, so a few of you have already gone to the Euros and everything, and a few of you probably be jetting off abroad, and a lot of you like taking reading material, in particular sort of football books. So we had a look as to what kind of, I guess, Stoke-related books or books with areas of Stoke City in it that you could read this summer. So we had a little talk about it. I think the double whammy of She Stood There Laughing and She Laughed No More by the late Stephen Foster is a brilliant place to start. It sort of details our promotion season and our first season in the Premier League, and it's sort of a game by game diary style book, and it's honestly terrific. And if you read it years back, the memories will come flooding back. I didn't get it until sort of a couple of years ago, and it was brilliant reading back and reminiscing about that first season. So I'd highly recommend that. I do believe it's available on Amazon still. Another book of that ilk is Exile in the Promised Land, which I believe Chris has read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, do you want me to say
Is that your
anything about
review?
Yeah, it's very, very similar to the two you mentioned. It chronicles the first season in the Premier League, and each chapter's kind of each match. And yeah, I read it a few years back now, but reliving that first season and some of the apprehension and the nerves, it's a really, really good read. Recommend it for the nostalgic reader.
Excellent. There is a book called Terrific. Tony Pulis is 40 years in football. If you refuse to let him go from your life, it's a very good read. It's not quite the revealing biography or something that you'd expect, but it is quite a nice read to see how a young Welshman has come up in his career from footballer to work his way through management and deal with some horror chairmen like the ones at Gillingham. So yeah, I'd highly recommend that. I believe it's done by David Lee, who is also on Twitter, and there's a foreword by Roy Delap. So yeah, that's excellent. Moving on to other biographies and autobiographies, we have Mama Sidibe's, which is highly recommended by lots, and I believe it's also available digitally on Kindle. Danny Higginbotham's book is also out. We can only presume that the price is £4.42.
Oh God!
And
for the benefit of everyone, that's a joke about Danny Higginbottom liking 440.
yeah,
just in case it went over your head.
In terms of your full Stoke dose, I'd also recommend the issues of Duck magazine, they're also on Twitter.
Absolutely.
And you can buy individual episode editions and subscribe as well, and you can get them digitally or by post. We'd obviously recommend.
Yeah, it's if you're a Stoke fan and you don't get a Duck magazine at the games you go to, absolutely do. It's well worth your money. Follow Buddy on Twitter as well. He's at DuckMagStoke. Very funny on there, and it's always an entertaining read.
Indeed. And sometimes we contribute. There's a bit of self-promotion there. So in terms of those that may not be directly about Stoke but have elements in there, I'd recommend the duo of books by Michael Calvin, who's a brilliant writer. That would be The Nowhere Men, which is all about the tale of scouts in football and sort of their stories. So you can hear how Jack Butland did at Roots Hall when he was out on loan against Southend. And his other book, which came out last year, which I'm reading at the moment, is called Living on the Volcano, and it's all about the tales of football managers and the stresses that they have to deal with. And there's a whole chapter on there about Mark Hughes and sort of his transition from Manchester City, what went on there, to the nightmare at QPR and the stability at Stoke, where he says you tend to do better when the club you're at and the people around you want you to do well, which is what he feels at Stoke, which is terrific to hear. So I would recommend those two. David, you're quite an avid reader, as are you, Chris. Any other general football ones you'd throw in?
Well, I'm on the Eurostar to Paris on Thursday, and I've taken two sort of Euro-themed books with me, which are Graham Hunter's Spain book, which I haven't opened yet, but big fan of Graham Hunter's podcast, so really looking forward to that one. It's like an insight into the Spanish team that won 3 back-to-back tournaments. And I'm also reading Das Reboot by Raphael Honigstein, who's a Guardian writer, and that's all about the Germany World Cup winning team, which has been excellent so far. Really interesting insight into how they sort of rebuilt their national football team almost from the ground up.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I think both of them are quite good on Twitter as well. If you want to drop them a follow, it's good insight into La Liga and Bundesliga respectively, if you want to get on board with football in other countries too.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's your summer reads. If you've got any more, then you're welcome to tweet us in and we'll try and mention them on the next podcast.
Absolutely. I've just noticed my laptop is slowly running out of battery, so we'll wrap things up there. Thank you to everyone who downloaded episode 3. We're steadily increasing our numbers of listens both on SoundCloud and iTunes, and you can also find us on YouTube now, which the channel is Wizards of Dribble, not Wizards of Drivel. We named our channel after Jermaine Pennant, obviously, and it should be easier to find us on iTunes now. We've slightly modified the name of the show so that if you search for Stoke City on iTunes, we should be the first thing that comes up under podcast. So that's all good. Jason, exciting news about the 4231 Stoke website.
It is exciting news indeed. So the Wizards of Drivel podcast was named deliberately because we are we're saying goodbye to 4231 Stoke as of the end of the month, and we are moving towards a rebrand to the Wizards of Dribble, which has just been spoiled by David on the YouTube chat. But
No, that's unfair.
no, it's fine. So we've done a lot on 4231 over the last couple of years, and we're grateful for the near 200,000 views that we've got from Stoke City fans and the neutrals that have enjoyed it as well. And we've had to think about what we would like to do as a site and where we'd like to move towards. And we feel that we're not going to go down the standard here's a match preview, here's a match review stuff. We want to sort of take a step back and maybe write a little more infrequently, but write longer pieces, more insightful pieces and things like that. Like, we want to take a bit more time to do them rather than just churn it out for the sake of it, basically. So alongside that, and the integration with the podcast now, we've sort of just gone along a rebrand. So yeah, as of I think probably the end of June, start of July, you'll see the website name change to wizardsofdribble.com. If you use it now, it will redirect to 4231. But we're looking at a website redesign, and you'll see our handle on Twitter change to @WizardsOfDribble, presuming that no one's taken it after this podcast. Don't you dare. So, yeah, it's been really fun running 4231 Stoke for a couple of years, but we're still the same people. It's just a slightly different name. And yeah, if you want to follow us for the podcast on Twitter, we have a Wizards of Drivel Twitter profile dedicated to this now, which we will push you towards for that. And yeah, that's the news.
Fantastic.
Wait,
As far as the podcast is concerned, I think we'll be back hopefully towards the end of June, maybe the early portion of July. Thank you so much for listening to episode 4.
Before you, sorry,
no.
I'm going to say, before you finish, David, earlier today I found a lot. If you remember, last season we tried to raise some money for the Stoke City ladies team we were selling posters and stuff. I've actually found the Arnautovic on the Game of Thrones, on the Iron Throne. I found that picture, and I found the Mark Hughes Revolution poster. I've got a handful left here. What I'm going to say is, because they're branded with 4-2-3-1 Stoke in the bottom, the best, if we keep doing the Stoke City 11 whatever topic, the best ones, if we pick the best ones, I'm happy to send out a free poster to the best ones.
Love that idea.
Perfect.
Right, but my puns are the best, so I think I'm on course for a few posters there. It's a nice one. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to episode 4. I want to say a big thank you again to everyone who's downloaded any of the first 3 episodes. Yeah, back late June, early July. As always, if you've enjoyed listening, please spread the word. As always, we just want to access as many Stoke fans as possible, and we just want as much feedback as possible. So of course, you can tweet us. I'm at David Cowlishaw. Jason, you are
At SCFC Jace.
And Chris.
I'm at Brammed.
Thank you very much. I think the Wales game has got off to a dramatic start, so we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Au revoir.